Do you have any slam poetry prepared about fungi for us tonight?
I don't have any poetry about fungi prepared, but I do have some poetry I could pull out.
All right. We'll get to that in a minute, though, because first and foremost, we have to introduce you to the viewers and to the listeners, most importantly, because this is, after all, technically a radio show. And if I did everything right, we are currently also streaming on WECS. And if I didn't, and we're not, WECS, you're listening to this a week later. So hello from the future, the past. Time is weird and doesn't exist. Anyway, Sam, we have some questions for you that we always ask our guests, all right? So, first up, most importantly, the thing that matters the most, which I haven't had to ask in a while. I feel like we've had a lot of returning members, and it just kind of fell by the wayside. But this is super important, and we must know. What is your zodiac sign?
As you must know, I am a Sagittarius.
Are you?
Yes, indeed.
That is interesting. Very interesting. You fit the profile of a Sagittarius, if I may say so.
So I've been told. So I've been told.
Do you actually believe in astrology?
Not to the greatest extent, but I believe some things about it.
Okay. So you wouldn't
I
live your
I'm
life
not.
according to a horoscope, but you see patterns in certain traits?
Well, I actually don't know any of the traits. I kind of just
Mm,
treat people as people. I don't
so deep.
judge based on zodiacs.
That's interesting because I'm seeing here in our live chat, Leo would like to know what we think about Aries. Mac says Aries gang, even though she's a Taurus, but my immediate reaction was, another fire sign.
Oh, let's go. It's lit. Fire signs. Let's go. Fire sign strong.
I feel like I don't have any real biases against anyone because of their zodiac signs, but it is interesting to know what they are because you start to, I guess, look for similarities in other people of that similar sign, whether it's like your sun, rising, moon sign, etc. Sometimes it lines up, sometimes it doesn't, but it's just cool to see the patterns. Obviously, there's more than 12 types of people on the planet. Even astrologers have decided there's now a 13th one, whatever that means. Because I don't know the traits and I don't like it because it would make me a Gemini instead of a Cancer, and I just don't know if I could live with that.
Right. I don't think that's the best thing. I don't know why they decided that, but definitely there are more than just certain traits, and obviously it's a lot on characteristics, honestly.
Right, right. So, would you define yourself by anything that a Sagittarius is, or do you just know nothing about it at all?
I don't know too much about it, but I definitely have been told that um their Sagittarius tend to have a creative
Mm-hmm.
side to them. Um, and I can guarantee that that is most certainly true. I do see myself as a creative person.
Makes sense. So, one of the things that you are creative in, as aforementioned, is poetry.
Uh, Aside from poetry, there's a lot of things. I like to kind of dip my toe in the water here and there with all kinds of things.
Sure.
Let's see. What don't I do is the question. I've done music a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
No songs yet, unfortunately, but I play around with it a little.
Okay.
Uh, I started off with art being my passion,
Mm-hmm.
and then I ended up finding spoken word poetry and kind of transitioned into that.
All right.
Let's see. I do honestly. I do so much that I can't even think of it all.
I feel like most creative types tend to dabble in more than one field, regardless. Whether it's because you just kind of have to, because it's your job, and if you work in any of the arts, you'll end up doing jobs that aren't necessarily the your main export, if we can call it that, but just things that are more so to market yourself. But that would also, I guess, tie into like your what is it, like your Myers-Briggs type or your literally any other type of personality test.
Right.
But at your core, then you define yourself as a creative.
As a creative, definitely.
All right. Do you have any work that you can share with us?
I do. I have a few. I don't know how many of them you want me to read. If you want me to read all of them in once, or
Let's start with one and go from there.
all right. I guess I'll go ahead and start off with a poem called "Fading," since it's a short one.
Okay, let's hear it.
We crossed paths today, and you kept your sight down. I looked straight forward into my dreams as your footsteps faded into the background. How two strangers can go from enjoying each other's company to saying nothing at all is completely beyond me. But how I wish I could see your smile and know that you are doing okay. Yet fate decided it best for us to part ways. So as I felt your shadow brush my shoulder and choked on the words that screamed to escape, I continued walking forward, hoping things could change.
Very deep. Do we snap here? No, but solid piece. Would you care to give us any background on it, or is that for your thoughts only?
It's honestly it's a pretty long story, but at this point, I've told it so many times that I feel like I can give the good old synopsis of it.
Okay.
Pretty much, I had a group of friends, and we kind of had a falling out, unfortunately, as you know, typically that's just kind of what happens in life.
Mm-hmm.
But within that group of friends was this girl that I was talking to.
Naturally.
And I don't know why, or I don't know for what reason, but I've come to find out that usually whatever problem I have tends
Mm-hmm.
to be because of a woman.
Wow.
Um,
Could it perhaps be some of that falls too hard, too fast personality trait that is common in Sagittariuses?
as much as I probably hate to admit it.
See, I'm telling you.
um, yeah, but we unfortunately, had a falling off. They, I honestly could not say like why,
Mm-hmm.
simply because I don't know myself. Um,
Sure.
from their perspective, they didn't like the way that I was acting,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll admit it. I've admitted it quite a few times already. That yeah, sure, there might have been a few things that I haven't really apologized for, or I haven't or that I have done in the past, and I'll admit to that, and obviously I apologize.
Right.
But at the same time, it was both ways. There were things that I felt uh, that was going against me within the
Mm-hmm.
group. You know, so we had a falling out, unfortunately, and There was a girl that I was talking to who ended up becoming a part of that friend group,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it was like a few weeks ago, probably about 3 weeks ago, where I hadn't seen her. She goes to the school,
Mm-hmm.
and I hadn't seen her in quite some time since we got back. And then I saw her for the first time since the fallout, literally like about 3 weeks ago. And it just, for some reason, my brain just was like, hey, make a mental note to write about this.
You just had to express that creatively, what you couldn't express
I,
to them in person.
right. And it was like, make a mental note to write about this. And so I did. And fading is what came out of it.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Would you say you consider then your work to be mostly creative outlet then for more so for stressors in life, or just for whatever it is you're feeling in general?
Oh, definitely. It's definitely a creative outlet for just whatever I'm feeling in general.
Yeah.
Um, it's helped me out in the past too. I've gone through a lot of things that, like, if you looked at from an outsider perspective and then like saw everything that I've gone through, you'd be like, "Yo, how did he make it this far?" I'm shocked. I'm genuinely shocked. Um, but it's definitely helped me, and I believe I said it in my last radio show. I would even I would even go as far as to say that it saved my life.
Yeah, yeah, which I know feels and sounds super corny, but it's real, right? Like,
It's definitely real.
creative expression is a powerful thing. And I love having these conversations. They're surprisingly not ones that come up as often as one would think, especially with the nature of my show being, interview style with random people, and myself being more on the creative side of things. But I always love hearing how other people, uh, I guess, use it as a catharsis, because I know before I used to hate having to learn, like, ah, yes, the symbolism of this, the meaning behind it. Like, bro, if you're trying to tell us something, just tell us, right? But whenever you're on the other side, it's like, well, if I was gonna do that, then I would just, write an autobiography. Sometimes you've got to be cryptic on purpose, just because, that way people can also relate to it, and you could even use your work to, I guess, appeal to the audience that you yourself feel slighted by, if it's about that, or if you're trying to celebrate a win, but not come off as like arrogant. At the same, again, similarly, you just have to find a way to phrase it in a way that will be consumable, if that makes sense.
For about 8 or 9 years now, and I've gotten to the point where it's literally my entire life.
Yeah.
I feel like without creative writing, I probably wouldn't be like where I am now. So it definitely is. It definitely is something that, like, helps you get by. And
For
yeah,
sure.
sure, it's used to learn all the basics and stuff like that. And for someone who probably doesn't enjoy that, they're like, "Oh, why do I have to be here?" But like,
Right.
no, I'm telling you, this is like, you get me talking about this, I won't shut up, and then
Well,
you'll be
the good
sitting
thing is you
there,
have an hour about it to talk about it. I mean,
and then eventually you're gonna be sitting there like, "Oh my God, will he just shut up about it?"
well, we'll see. We'll see how annoyed we get of your conversation in the next 40 minutes. But we do have some questions coming in from chat if you would like to take them.
Let's go ahead.
First question is, tell us about the panda in the background of your screen. So if you're watching this, you see the panda. If you're listening to this, know that there is a panda in Sam's background.
The panda actually came from a claw machine.
Wow.
Yeah, I spent $20 on a claw machine.
Just to try to get the panda.
Not just to try to get the panda. I got a lot more stuffed animals.
Ah, nice. Where are the others?
They're around in the room.
Oh, I love that. Do you just collect them for memories, or do you like stuffed animals, or are they specific ones? Like, do you believe in pandas' supremacy?
Well, I don't know. I feel like pandas are a different situation because I also do have a panda blanket.
Okay.
Um,
Panda stand
I
confirmed.
um, I feel like they kind of. I hate the fact that I'm making like this all deep and stuff like that, but I feel like
No, by all means.
they're like a symbol of harmony, I guess. And I have a joke, in a way, because I've been told so many times that, like, I fit in with just about any crowd.
Sure.
So I like to, like, compare myself to a panda because they're black and white and Asian.
Oh, of course, of course. I feel like I saw that on an iFunny post in high school, probably.
Yeah.
My sister's favorite animals are pandas, so I know more about pandas than I ever thought I would, thanks to her.
Actually, I think I know that. If I remember, if I her Snapchat name has a little panda on it.
It does indeed. Charlotte exposed if she's in chat. If not, I'll let her know later. Um, Another question. What do the sticky notes on your wall say?
Uh, Nothing important. One's just like a shopping list, and the
Oh
other
no.
one is my teacher's phone number.
I love that you also have sticky notes because same. This is my registration code. This is a list of fonts, CMYK codes for a project, and a drawing of a table for no reason.
I
um,
also have my schedule on here. I have, a calendar board.
Love that. See, all of my like note stuff is over here, so y'all don't see the chaos. Y'all just see the part that I've allowed y'all to perceive, which is this. You can't see it,
Right.
Sam, unless you're watching the stream. But there's a Batman mask screenshot from a game that I play a lot, my Among Us character, and a painting of the word bruh in the style of the NASA symbol.
I had something down, but I also had a mask up.
Oh, nice. What is the mask
Mine
of?
was a. Hold on, I might be able to reach it.
Welcome to the chat, Charlotte. We just mentioned you and your love for pandas. Oh, that's very, very interesting. Silver School. Is there
Yeah,
a
I took
story
it down.
behind that, or is it just decorative?
Honestly, it's just decorative. I think I got it at Kroger like a long time ago,
Nice. Or-
and it I only used it like once to make like a Ghost Rider costume.
Oh, nice, 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 nice. That's really cool. We'll take another question. Uh, Pancakes or waffles?
I'm gonna
Alternative
have to go with
choice, French toast.
no. I'm gonna have to stick with the strong waffles.
Okay, there we go. See, I'm glad I had you on as a guest tonight because same.
Waffles. Waffle
Well,
House all the way.
waffles over everything.
They are superior.
Is Waffle House mostly an obsession in the South, or is it also a thing here? Have you found? Because everyone that I've talked
Um,
to from Georgia in particular loves Waffle House. I personally have gone maybe once or twice in my life when I was a child, and then just never
right.
revisited it. But I know it is a staple to y'all from Georgia, and then people from here just don't actually know about Waffle House.
I don't think there actually is a Waffle House up here. Um,
No, I don't believe so.
I know that it is a big thing back in Georgia. However, I don't know if it's like just a city thing or like if it's an entire state thing.
No, it's a thing for your entire state. Everyone I've talked to from from the southern states, but Georgia in particular is obsessed with Waffle House.
Waffles. They rule.
Waffles. Just waffles.
That's all I can say. Just waffles.
I feel like Waffle House is the type of place, and this is going to be a flawless segue into our next topic. Waffle House is the type of place where you realize that other people are also living their own very unique, independent lives, which is the definition of the word sonder. Sam, have you any thoughts on this term?
Yeah. Oof, I have a lot of thoughts on this term. Because I will preface it with I like to reflect a lot. I like to just kind of internalize some things and just self introspect and all that good stuff. So obviously that will at times lead to being like, yo, I'm not alone on this planet. Like I'm living this life with this other person and they have their own little intricate life. And then it makes you like start questioning like what are they thinking about? What are their issues? What are their struggles? What are their like ideas and all that kind of stuff?
Right. And it's interesting because you kind of touched upon this with our first segment in which you were talking about, you know, the situation with your former friend group and how they might have viewed your actions. So from their perspective it's different and you understand that from your perspective it's different. So even in a little bit in um putting ourselves in other people's shoes, we experience that even though it's not as blatant as, you know, the shocking realization that everyone has their own like world going on inside their head essentially.
Right. And it's just it baffles me honestly. I will literally just randomly be walking, and all of a sudden I'm like, I wonder what that stranger's thinking.
Suddenly you are Inside Out the movie.
Yeah. Suddenly.
I mean, even I feel like this right here, this experience is a little similar to that because I've been a guest on your show in the past, and you mentioned earlier that it was going to be weird to be on the other side of the conversation for a change. So whenever you said that, I was thinking like, dang, I wonder how other people prepare for the shows and how other people structure their shows because I feel like with mine, the format of it is the lack of a format whatsoever. But whenever I did your show, you know, we had actual show notes with like not times, but like bullets of things that we needed to get to. Whereas mine's kind of just like I'm thinking about it and I will segue to it at some point, but we'll see.
Right. I evolved from that slightly. Um, kind of. I don't know how much of an evolution this is, but
You're a
um,
Pokemon?
I now like
Oh wow.
basically write the entire thing out.
I love that for you. That is amazing.
That's only when I'm in there by myself, though, when I don't have a guest.
Right.
When I have a guest, it's slightly different. I just kind of ask questions.
Yeah. I feel like that's a
It's
good
still
format to have, yeah.
it's still formatted, but like they're mainly questions.
Yeah. I think I do a similar thing. Whenever I'm on by myself, I'll try to like pick maybe a different array of topics so that I know I won't run out of things to talk about. But that's also kind of what led me to doing the show, not just on air. Obviously, before it was me and my laptop in the studio. Now I'm doing it from here while this whole pandemic thing gets settled, and also while it stops randomly snowing. But yeah, that's kind of what led me to this because even having one person in chat say something will spark me to be like, oh wait, yeah, I could talk about that for a second.
Right.
So it's more about having that interaction live rather than just talking to yourself for an hour. Because whenever I first started, my solo episodes were kind of like what you showed me with like scripts of like paragraphs and notes and things that I was like, okay, I will say this at 11:04. I will say this at 11:17. But like for what, you know? And that's kind of the spirit of talk radio and of podcasts is just kind of to contemplate things in a way that people find interesting enough to listen to, but that people can also just have on in the background without having to focus entirely, which is also what drew me to podcasts in the first place.
Right. And, I mean, I've always wanted to start my own podcast. I've been told that I should,
Mm-hmm.
and Radio Club was like it was like just the gateway. It was
Right.
there. It was an opportunity. I said, let's take it.
And now here you are, publishing
And
your thoughts as a poet.
how far we have come.
Indeed. We have reached the halfway point of the show. Do you have another poem for us?
I do actually.
The way I just asked that sounded like the worst acting job ever. But do you have another poem for us? I would actually like to hear.
I do. This one is called Bind It.
All right, let's hear it.
Strangers to each other, yet known to ourselves, the turning pages of a never-ending chapter book, forever changing, rewriting the way that we see each other. Your fluorescent hazelnut eyes, the coffee I drink when I wake one minute, your elongated, jagged words of rejection, the serrated edge that sinks its teeth into my neck the next. I wish we could go back, or maybe meet in a new story, rewrite our past, and allow the crimson ink within our veins to pump into each other's hearts. Let my words, which softly kisses your ear, be the stone iron lock that binds our souls together. Let the story unfold as the ink black of where my finger once was caresses the snow white of your body. Let me become more than a stranger. Allow me to rip the pages of your book out and bind them together with mine, because we may be strangers to each other and known to ourselves, mere turning pages of a never ending chapter book, but at least we can write our story together.
Where were you on the Valentine's Day episode? I feel like this would have been better content for that rather than on actual Pi Day, you know?
I was taking myself on a date.
Oh, nice. Treat yourself.
It's all about loving yourself, you know.
You know what? That is super important. Would you like to share any background on that poem, or is it just kind of what we heard about somewhat unrequited love? I think I don't know. Poetry's not my not my gig.
Right. For the most part, it was about longing, honestly. Um,
Hmm.
just just wishing you could be with someone. And to be honest, it was just a stranger that I had recently met.
Sure.
Um, like one does, you know,
Yeah, naturally.
or or maybe it's just me.
Typical Sagittarius. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna keep tying this back
Uh,
to astrology.
ah, I don't think I'm gonna escape that, am I?
No, never. Astrology's become a running joke on the show, because it was one of the intro questions for a while, and then through repeated conversations about whether or not it's real. At this point, I don't care. It's a part of the show. Y'all are gonna deal with it.
You should get shirts,
of astrology references for the show.
just astrology references for the show.
I do own a shirt that says "What's your sign?" and then on the back it's different traits listed for different signs. No shame, no
Fair.
regrets. um,
That's
yeah, but so what was I going to ask? It was still about the poetry. Would you ever consider showing these poems to the people that you write them about? Do the people you write them about know that there's poems written about them? Or do you keep them mostly just like again, like as a journal of sorts?
Um, I'm sorry, I didn't know I was going to be exposed to this.
Uh that's what the show's about. It's an interview. You thought we were just gonna be talking about art and hyping you up? No. I'm Barbara Walters, dude.
Um, I think I have shown some to a few people, not to a lot, but I feel like I just kind of keep it more so open.
Hmm.
Um, and it's more of a hey, if the shoe fits type of
Okay,
deal.
sure.
Um, but I usually never like target any of my poems
Hmm.
to anyone. I just kind of write what I feel, how I feel it.
All right. Fair. Fair. And do you publish your work anywhere, or is it just kind of like this, where you just discuss it in passing or when an opportunity presents itself? Because I know you've done open mics in the past.
A few open mics here and there in the past. Unfortunately, I have not published any work that I can think of
Mm-hmm.
so far. But I am, and you know what? No shame, selfish promotion right
By all
here.
means, this is an episode about you.
I'm currently working on a poetry book
Okay.
um, that deals with the process of healing, specifically post heartbreak.
Okay. Very fitting for your target audience, I'd assume.
Uh, yeah, definitely. I just and honestly, the inspiration behind that kind of came with my latest um, relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Things obviously you feel like things are going all good and stuff like that, and then once you get over that, you realize exactly like what the situation actually was.
Right,
So
right.
I came to realize, like how toxic that situation was, how um bad it was for me. Even after like people told me like to my face, and I'm gonna be like open and honest. I fell into a deep depressive state, like,
Yeah, I'd assume.
and uh, it was like that for a few. the The worst part about it was that this was when quarantine hit.
Oh, so it's just the entire atmosphere of isolation.
So it was breakup and then quarantine.
Right.
And so I was just in my room, just kind of stuck with my thoughts. And it was like that for a few months. And then after a while, it was just like, you know what? I'm done. I don't want to feel this way anymore.
Yeah. And that's such an important step to take as well. I feel like a lot of situations that we get ourselves in, you either have to allow yourself to feel it or you shut it off completely. But deciding to move past it and just accepting that, in a similar way of, to our conversation about sonder, you have to accept that everyone's doing their own thing, doing what they think is best for them, and if they hurt others along the way, it's not always your responsibility to stay and be hurt by it.
Right. I actually talked about, this topic on my last radio show.
Oh, okay.
Just the process of healing itself and like allowing yourself to take that first step.
Mm-hmm.
um, but yeah, I decided to write this book, where I was like, hey, I don't want other people to feel the same way that I feel. I don't want people to go through the same way that or go through the same things that I went through.
Right.
So I wanna be able to write my story. Let me write my story. That way that people can take that and use it as an example
And
of what.
do you think people will take your story and use it as a cautionary tale? Because from what I'm hearing, you've ignored every single chick flick ever made because you went and got hurt regardless. So you yourself are not taking other people's cautionary tales. Because I feel like a part of the human experience is feeling things for yourself. Obviously, if someone tells you, "Yo, don't touch a stove, you're gonna burn your hand," you'd understand. All right, maybe I don't have to experience that for myself. But when it comes to, uh, I guess, relationships and interactions, you really don't know until you know.
A little fun fact you should know about me. I feel like if you tell me to not touch the stove, I'm gonna touch it.
Sagittarius be like, wow. It's because you're a fire sign, isn't it? Hmm. Interesting.
I want the fire to bite me. I want to become a fire boy.
I
I want to become the
don't
human
think
torch.
that's how it works. All right,
Um,
so sure, that works with fire. You're gonna be Heartbreak Boy? Is that your superpower? You just cry in the corner? All right, sure, go off, sis.
but I actually, like, the reason I in my case ignored a lot of the people who were telling me that, yo, she's not good for you, or yo, this relationship isn't gonna work, was because I kind of it touches with my intuition a little bit.
Okay,
um I don't know what it was, but something in my gut feeling just told me that I couldn't let go yet, and
okay.
it wasn't the time to like let go. And so I kind of stuck it out, and with good reason. Like, yes, I got hurt and all that, but it was a necessary hurt that I needed to feel in order to grow from that and
Right.
just become a better person.
So again, I say, with your goals for your poetry book, are you taking that experience from people by telling them, "Hey, I went through this. Don't do it yourself," or are you hoping that people will take it and use it to learn how to cope with it once it inevitably happens?
I guess the target goal for the book is to just help people realize what one scenario can look like
Mm-hmm.
with it, and help them at least realize that they might also need to, start their journey to heal it.
All right.
That's the main, help others start that journey that they need to go on in order to be able to heal.
Sure. Yeah. That's solid. Um, I was gonna ask something. So in that case, then, what are some poems, movies, songs, etc., that you feel have helped you through whatever? Because you said that your own work has helped you in terms of like expressing yourself and getting through things. But are there other people's works? And this can be like Taylor Swift's latest song or some underground 100 follower Instagram poet. I don't know what you'd be looking at.
Well, honestly, I just recently read all three of Ruby Kaur's books,
Okay.
and uh, definitely check them out if you haven't. Uh, Everyone always knows, obviously, Milk and Honey. That's the
Right.
most popular one. Um, but she does have two other ones. I believe the second one is called "The Sunflower and Her Seeds,"
Mm-hmm.
and then the third one I believe is called "Homebody." And pretty much that's what she focuses on. Just basically accepting herself and loving herself and just healing in general.
Right.
And so those I recently read those, and those definitely kind of are helping shape a little bit of the book, in a way. They're
Mm-hmm.
helping inspire it.
That's cool. I actually remember seeing her like kind of blow up on Instagram for a while. Uh but never really paid much attention to her. Like I don't think I said this on this episode. I've said it in the past. Poetry was never really my favorite. I had this conversation with a few different people, and at some point, uh, I might have described it as lazy writing, but I know it's not, because I feel like a lot of people want to call their work poetry, but it's kind of just a list of incomplete thoughts, right? Which isn't to say that that's not work and that's not an art form, that's not whatever. It's just not what I was into at the time. But I've come around to it a lot more in recent times. Maybe it was quarantine that got me to enjoy poetry a little more. But I will say, there is one Rupi Kaur poem that I love so much, and I have it up on my wall because I used it for a project in word art. But it's "The world brings you so much pain, but here you are making gold out of it." And I read that poem just kind of like in passing, but at the time when I feel like I needed to hear it, I feel like my real peak of interest in poetry was probably right after graduation in high school. I was chosen to read the poem at graduation and then be like, all right, everyone, throw your little hats or whatever. And so I was like, wow, how ironic that I would have to read a poem when I don't even like poetry. But then after I read the poem, it stayed in my mind. Like, you know how a song gets stuck in your head? I would have phrases from the poem that we read stuck in my head. I think I read If, which is a really powerful poem, I guess. A lot of people read it in English class. But yeah, ever since then, I kind of just started being a little more open minded, paying more attention. Uh, so yeah, this is all to say I've come around on poetry, and Ruby Kaur I know gets a lot of like, not hate, but a lot of criticism on the internet for that phrase of like being lazy writer. But I mean, if you read something and it resonates with you, why not?
Right. Like, to be honest, here's the thing: a lot of people don't like her.
Mm-hmm.
Not Rupi Kaur, but a lot of people don't like this particular YouTuber.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because there's been a lot of controversy around her. But Gabby Hanna, I feel like you're aware that she has also written a poetry book.
I did not know she'd written a poetry book, but I was very aware that the internet didn't like her.
She has indeed written a poetry book. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, she has written two of them.
Okay.
Um, I ended up getting her poetry book, her first one,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people are like, "Oh, you suck at poetry" and stuff like that. And literally, she gets so much criticism for it all. But I'm gonna be honest, it legit helped me get out of a creator slump, and just helped me like get out of like a writing writer's block.
How
That's
so?
the word.
Writer's block.
I don't know. I just feel like the way that it was, the way that like her poems were so simple,
Mm-hmm.
and just reading it kind of allowed for my brain to just be able to get into that mindset of like writing poetry and just connecting these words and stuff like that,
Sure.
and also just kind of eased up a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, because you're always like, oh no, poetry has to be this and
Right,
do this
right.
and all that, and
Okay.
after reading that book, I was like, all right, dude, chill. Poetry can literally just be your thoughts.
Poetry can literally be Gabby Hanna deciding to publish a book.
And literally, if I wanted to, I could write a poem about
You
that.
could. You really could. I feel inspired to write a poem about it. And I don't even, like I said, poetry's not really my main art form. No, nah. Sure. Gabby Hanna. Wow, I haven't thought about her in so long. I think the last time I thought about her was like literally years ago where it was something about she like broke some dude's phone at a party because she got mad at him.
Yeah, I don't keep up with drama.
He says as he writes a
Unfortunately,
whole book about drama. Okay.
unfortunately, that's not to say that drama doesn't somehow find its way into my life.
As it goes, dude. As it goes. Um,
Unfortunately, I can't escape it.
yeah, unfortunate indeed. Our time is almost drawing to a close. We have about 10 minutes or so. Would you like to share your final piece with us?
Sure, I
Or I
can go
guess
ahead and do that.
penultimate, not final. You'll write your final one someday far off into the future.
I'll write my final one right before I die. It's all good.
No will and testament, no last words, just poem.
No, just actually no. I'll make my will and testament into a poem.
You have to decipher the meaning behind it to know what you get.
And I'll write it right on my deathbed too. Um, but this one is actually called Fender Bender, and
Okay,
it's a poem that I recently actually turned in for an assignment.
nice. All right, let's hear it. We'll grade it here, live on air.
Angels floating onto the earth in their cocaine white robes, as the surrounding shrieking silence cradled my thoughts within its comfort. A collision ahead, a minor bump in the road, angry shouts as the scarlet blood of the metal box is left intact, yet wounded. As if love was meant to be a smooth ride. As if you and I were meant to collide, our fates intertwined, a date with destiny or with the divine. I walk forward alone. A life-barren land painted of concrete with measles of green, where demons roamed in the shadows of the sky. The hushed whisper of the wind brushing against my face as all around me angels joined the sea of feathers that softened my steps, like that of a cushion, erasing where I have been. Yet the crisp Arctic breeze reminds me of the warmth that I once knew by your side. As I looked up into the abyss, the stars, a mirror of the ones falling towards the earth, bright and beautiful. As I closed my eyes and inhaled the serene scent of the night, I knew my heaven was here. I knew my hell was you. So I let the snow fall onto my back, like the wings of an angel, as I stood, sedated by the silence, and allowed my thoughts to lift into the midnight sky, angels returning to heaven.
All right. Um, A minus because I didn't understand it. All right, so give us the background on this one.
Honestly, the assignment was write a poem about a walk.
Okay.
So I did, and this was on a day where it was snowing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't think people expected it to snow that day. It was a Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Um, and so people weren't like really plowing the streets or anything like that. But there was a minor fender bender. Like I actually witnessed it, like right in front of me, where just two cars kind of bumped into each other, and
Wow.
the guy in a red car um, got out of his car and started yelling at the other guy, and he was just angry. I was on my way to get food though, so
It was literally just in passing that you happened to witness it.
just in passing, and I was on my way to get food, and and on my way back uh, to my dorm, I was like, I wonder if they're still there and stuff like that. Thankfully, they were gone. It wasn't too major or anything like that. But I remember just looking up at the sky and just seeing all the stars and how like bright they were, and I just kind of inhaled just a lot of like tranquility in that moment and was like, ah, such a good day.
Yeah.
Like just let all my worries out. And that's what it was. That's what it stemmed from.
Amazing. Snap, snap for you, man. Again, back to sonder is such a good word because now I'm sitting here like, wow, you just said that you just breathe in such tranquility. Meanwhile, these guys just got into a fender bender, and you're just like, ah, what a beautiful day. And meanwhile, their entire week is just ruined.
I feel like I sound like an asshole now.
No, not at all. I mean, it did inspire this, and from what you said, it sounds like everyone was okay.
Yeah, thankfully I was standing there. I was like, what do I do? Do I call someone? Do I call the police? Like, what do I do? And I just unfortunately kept walking. Um,
That bystander
and,
effect, wow.
yeah, which is why Sonder comes into play.
That is where sonder comes into play. I love that we've managed to bring this completely full circle.
It's how it works. It's how the life revolves.
Indeed, indeed. Um, well, do you have any closing remarks or statements to say about any of your pieces or anything at all, or any new thoughts to offer to the conversation?
Well, on my radio show, I always like to remind everyone to reach out to, just anyone in general, anyone you feel comfortable in reaching out to. Um, Literally, friends, family, or everything like that. Reach out, just send them a message, be like, hey, how are you doing? Uh, so just reach out. You never know when you could be saving a life.
Indeed. If I hadn't already done one copyrighted song at the beginning, I would immediately be queuing up How to Save a Life by The Fray. But alas.
But definitely reach out and always remember. I always like to tell people, remember to ask questions and question everything because that's the only way you're going to get answers.
You know what? That's fantastic. On that topic, let me give you one question from chat that I saw earlier, just because I saw it and I was like, wow, that's super interesting. And I would love to know what Sam in particular has to say about it. This one comes from Brazil. And the question is, what do you think about getting the COVID vaccine? Since this is topical, because it was just announced that in May, Connecticut will be allowing college students to get it. So,
Right.
yeah, if for some reason this is where you get your news, dear listeners, the state of Connecticut has indeed said this. But follow up to that question, Brazil's president says that it's going to turn us all into alligators. I feel like this is a good combo to end the show on. Also, there's claps for your poetry and compliments for your hair.
Well, thank you for both the poetry and the hair compliments. It took me quite some time to grow my hair out. But as far as the COVID vaccine goes, everyone obviously has their own little theories and stuff like that. What's going to happen? I won't lie. I am slightly iffy on the whole mass vaccination thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I do understand, the background of it. I do understand how we were able to do the mass vaccination. I'm just slightly iffy because going back to my intuition, something tells me that something's like slightly off there and it just does not seem completely right. But however, if it comes to like getting vaccinated, like if say the school was like, oh, you need to be vaccinated in order to come back, yeah, sure, I'll do it.
Right.
I'm not opposed to it.
What do you think about it turning us into alligators, as per the president of Brazil?
I mean, what's to say that something else hasn't already turned us into another thing.
That is so philosophical and I hate it, but I can't argue it. Dang, that was almost poetry in and of itself. Actually, I'm gonna give you one last question from chat because I didn't know that this was a thing, and I don't know if it is a thing, but according to James, this is a thing. Ted Cruz sold signed copies of Green Eggs and Ham for $60. Is this real?
I don't know if that is. I haven't been keeping up with the news, but that would be interesting.
Yeah, I don't keep up with Ted Cruz enough to know this. I saw, oh, for his donation campaign. Interesting.
Is he even allowed to do that, though?
I don't know. I mean, I guess if you buy a bunch of copies, you can do what you want with them. Interesting. Would you buy a signed copy of Green Eggs and Ham?
If it was from Ted Cruz, no. If it was from someone else, probably. Ooh, if I got it signed by either of the Obamas or Bernie.
Okay. Solid. What if it was...
Scratch that. I need to have it signed by AOC.
That's your ultimate signature, not Dr. Seuss himself. AOC. Why would AOC sign Green Eggs and Ham? Where in the world does that combine? Why would she be signing this copy?
I don't know, but I feel like there's a connection there somewhere.
Have you ever done the I know I said we were winding down for the night, but now this is opened an entire door of 3 minutes left of the show. Okay, have you ever done the Wikipedia game thing where you start on one thing and you click through the links to try to get to something else? So you'll start on it's one of the most fun, like, weird little pastimes. But that's kind of what you just reminded me of with AOC reaching Green Eggs and Ham. I'm gonna do that after this. I'm gonna do the Wikipedia thing and try to get to one from the other.
My brain works in weird ways that it likes to connect things, and it works well for me when it comes to writing poetry.
Well, I mean, at least there's that. Maybe someday we can expect a poem from you about this entire podcast in particular.
Maybe.
I don't know how you're going to fit all of the topics into it, because, we talked pandas, we talked poetry, we talked heartbreak, we talked Green Eggs and Ham. There's a lot to cover.
Just give me the list and you got it.
Bet. All right. Well, thank you, Sam, so much for being this week's podcast guest. As he said,
thank you for that.
Of course. As he said, always reach out. It's a really good message to end the night on. We have one more song from you. Would you like to give us a quick little, intro to the song before we sign off?
Yeah, this is actually a song that I found on TikTok. I'm not too familiar with the artist, but I kind of checked out his page a little bit, and according to him, the song is deals with anxiety a little bit, and just the process of letting go or like overthinking and stuff like that.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much, Sam, for your appearance on the show. Thank you to everyone that hung out in chat. Thank you to everyone that's listening live on WECS 90.1 FM, or if you're listening to this later on YouTube or Spotify or anything. Yeah, thanks for hanging. And we'll see you next week at the same time, same station/channel with new nonsense and potentially new guests. Up next, we will have Can't Let Go by Jake Banfield and Dwayne Wave. Have a fantastic week.